Tommy. No one's called me that since high school. I like that. It's Tommy tonight.
Tommy. I've never called you Tommy.
You should now.
All right, Tommy. Tommy it is.
My alter ego.
Okay. All right.
Everybody doing okay? All right, good deal. What's up, man?
All right.
Why not?
Why not?
If they're on you. Thanks, bro.
Oh, that's generous. That's kind.
This is going to be a fun night. I wasn't sure what to expect, but we're already partying. Okay.
All right. New album, Friday.
Yeah.
About a woman.
Yeah.
Tell us about it. Why is it called About a Woman? Let's go softball question first.
That's the first question you came up with?
Let's just start off, just ease in.
Man, why is it called About a Woman? Well, I feel like I started writing this project about 1.5 years ago, and I wrote a lot of the songs with this dude and a crew of just amazing songwriters, and we were on the road. And Julian looked at me and said, what do you want this next kind of chapter to look like? And for me, the word joy just kept popping to my mind. I feel like I'm in a very... Anybody got kids in the house? A couple people? So I have 4. You do? Perfect. Come on. Wow. I got 4 little girls, and if you know what it's like having kids, like I would say for the last 6 years, it's been underwater is a wrong way to say that. But it's tough. It's tough raising little kids, and so I feel like over the last couple of years, me and Lauren have kind of, rediscovered our youth a little bit. And so I wanted to kind of make a record that made her smile and made her want to bop and made her want to dance. And so it was never really intended to be called About a Woman in the beginning. And then as we started to kind of, I think we were picking from like 120 songs when we started this project.
Yeah.
I am a songwriter first and foremost, so even I think my songwriting buddies get annoyed at me because like I'll finish a record and put it out and be like, y'all ready to write? And they're like, dude, your record just came out yesterday.
You have been sending me new songs.
I can't stop, won't stop. But yeah, I never stop writing, and so every record is this way for me. We always have way too many songs. And Julian has been a huge part in helping me whittle down into this 14-song album. And so we were sitting there and I was going through the track listing of the songs. Hi, by the way. Going through the songs and as you do, you're reading off the track listing and you're going, all right, Fool, Overdrive, After All the Bars Are Closed, could these be album names or whatever? And I think it was his wife as my manager, by the way. And
that's how I got this gig.
Yeah. And I think she looked at me and said, well, what is the record about? And I said, it's about a woman. And she goes, why don't we call it that? And it was the most kind of hit me in the face moment because genuinely when you listen down to all these tracks, they really are about my wife from all different seasons of our relationship, because we've known each other since we were in first grade, so we have a lot of daggone memories together. So when I'm writing love songs about her, I can pull from a bunch of different memories, whether that's freaking middle school or high school or college or today, and then kind of dream about what the future might look like too. So it kind of seemed fitting, and it was really nice to be able to dedicate an album to her. So.
It's amazing to me that title, I've never heard that title before, because which is crazy. Most records, I would imagine, have been written about a woman.
For sure.
Most songs, or at least half of them. But it blew my mind when we were like, wow, how has this not been a title before?
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. So yeah, let's talk about the 150 songs you had written before you sort of had even started the process of this album. Because I remember we were on the bus, you had been writing.
You are the man.
Thank you.
What was your name?
Keith Verdi. What is it? Keith Verdi.
Make some noise for Keith, everybody.
Thank you, Keith. Appreciate it. Cheers.
It's the first time that's ever happened. It's amazing.
All right, so I remember being on the bus, talking about sort of what you wanted to do, and you'd kind of, you didn't put it in as eloquent words as you just did about what because we still hadn't found the thing yet, right? You're still searching, you're writing, and he writes more songs. I've been around a lot of songwriters and a lot of artists, and he's one of the most prolific songwriters I've ever been around. There's been bus weekends. We go out on the bus, and he's on tour, and in between a meet and greet and a show and a radio room, he'll write, or will write, or whoever you're with, in a weekend, 8 songs. I mean, I don't know. What's the biggest bus run song you've?
I feel like me
you've
and
had?
Ashley Gorley wrote 13 one weekend.
It's like,
And none of them made the record, which tells you
yeah.
quantity over quality, you know? So
Well, it's difficult, right? So he was in a place where he had 150 songs and was like, man, you know, playing me songs, and I am brutally honest with him, and he's brutally honest with me. When he plays me a song, I talk to him like he's my brother, and if I don't like it, I'm like, dude, hate it. Like there's no reason to sort of when you're collaborators and you've been in the collaborative trenches with each other, to mince words or to play with kid gloves, because we're all trying to win Grammys, right? We're all trying to write the greatest songs we've ever written, measured up against the songs that we grew up listening to, which are also, you know, name a favorite song. They're like the upper echelons of everything, whether it's Marvin Gaye or Prince or George Strait. Like, that's who our contemporaries with, that's who we're competing with, right? So he started playing me these songs, and we started picking through them and talking and whittling them down. And we got to this place where there was this through line, and then we went on a writing camp. I came out on the bus with you, which I think was the first explosion of inspiration that a lot of these songs came from. Can you talk about that bus writing trip with me, John, Andrew, and you?
yeah. So I feel like I'd written maybe 30, 40 songs before I got on the bus with Julian, and I kind of had an inkling that I really wanted Julian to produce this record, because we've been friends for, you know, almost a decade, and worked on Look What God Gave Her together, worked on Craving You together, worked on Beer Can't Fix together. We've worked on a bunch of different songs together, but never really done like a full project. And so got on the bus with him, and his crew out in LA are some of my favorite people to work with, because they kind of grew up listening to the same kind of music that I did. And, you know, Julian grew up with a dad that also produced records, and I grew up with a dad that sang country music in the 90s. So we kind of bonded over having dads that did the same thing, which can either be like amazing or like this, you know? So, but I feel like I got on that bus run, and I remember sending Julian a bunch of things I was listening to, and it was not obscure stuff, but it wasn't like, I'm listening to the new Drake, let's write that. Or I wasn't listening to, like, you know, Juice WRLD. It was like, hey, what about this Beatles song?
Right.
You know, and what about this random song on Black Dog by Zeppelin? Or I'm a huge Rolling Stones fan, and there's a couple songs on this record that we really tried to channel some Stone stuff. And I think when you're going into rights, like, I knew that he could take me there.
Because you also have come in and say, we got to do a song like this Drake song in the past.
100%.
Yeah, we've done that.
They'll never see the light of day.
No.
But yeah, we're sitting there, and I want to say the first song that we wrote was a song called Back to Blue, and it felt progressive yet familiar, and it felt like, I don't know, I remember John playing this little lick, and it felt like a modern day, like, Fishing in the Dark, which is like an all-time favorite of everybody. And we wrote that, and then it was around 2 o'clock in the morning that we wrote the song called Something About a Woman. And I remember vividly, I'd learned these 3 new chords on guitar that I think John had taught me.
Yeah.
And I was really proud of these chords that I had learned. And I was playing them all day, like, trying to insert my opinion. I was like, we should write something that feels like this. And I was like, nah, it's too jazzy, you know, or too whatever. Yeah. And I remember it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and my bus driver was sitting with us, and we're playing the songs from that day. You remember this?
Yes, I do.
And
I do.
My bus driver's name is Rhett, ironically.
Yeah, it's not confusing at all.
And he's like, I think he's like 72 or 73 years old. I mean, he's literally driven everybody and their mom, and he's amazing. And he's sitting there, and I remember we were doing like a double in a town. So normally when you do 2 nights in a town, the bus drivers let loose the first night because they ain't got to drive. And so Rhett's sitting on, you know, up there on the bus, just like kind of rocking with us, drinking a beer, listening to these songs. And I was like, we had no ideas left. I was like, Rhett, what should we write, man? He was like, well, he's real country. He was like, I don't know, I guess something about a woman. And all of us were like, so I started playing those fancy chords. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And we wrote it, and I remember that was the song that I just kept going back to, because it felt like something that I'd always wanted to try, like in that kind of, you know, Beast of Burden kind of Miss You kind of Stonesy kind of vibe, and I feel like for the first time we kind of nailed it, and I can't wait to play that song for y'all tonight.
We hit on something, and So I've found that there's certain little songs that unlock a door into a new sort of world that you can explore. And once you break through that, you go, oh, wow, we can play in this room, and there's so many things we can do in this area. And that trip, I think, informed a lot of this record. And you had a couple more. We had another one in Chattanooga.
Yep.
And then you had another one with Josh, who's here playing guitar with you, and Rocky Block and John Byron. Talk about chemistry. Because I've always been fascinated with songwriting chemistry in a room, how some person can be just a songwriter that's having no cuts, that's doing their thing, and another person can be doing the same thing, writing with everybody, and then the day those people meet and write a song, something magic happens.
For sure.
That you can't explain and you don't know why, and then all of a sudden, like, everything, the sky's open and the door's open, and
I don't know. I think for me, like, being with people that love music as much as I do. You know what I mean? Because there's people that like music that write songs, and there's people that love music that write songs.
Yeah.
And maybe for me, it's just growing up with a dad that, not only sang country music, but in the last 20 years has written, 50 number one songs in our genre, and like I've just learned the craft of songwriting from him so hard that when I get around, make some noise for Pops.
Straight up.
He has always been my biggest mentor when it comes to crafting a song, and I grew up listening to everything. Like on the way to school in the mornings, one morning it would be DMX, and the next morning it would be Aretha Franklin, and one morning it would be, Led Zeppelin, and the next morning it would be Ricky Skaggs and some, a bunch of different bluegrass music, and so he has always been like a walking jukebox for me, and so if you've listened to my records, they're sort of all over the place because I just love music that's all over the place. And so when I get around people like you and John and Josh Kerr and John Byron and all these people that grew up just like loving the craft of songwriting and loving music, I think it starts with that bond first. You know what I'm saying? But I think what makes the chemistry great, for me as an artist, it's different because we are writing for me. You know what I mean? So it's different for me to say that because like when I write with other artists, it's complicated for me to write for them or with them because I'm sitting there the whole time thinking, who is this for?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like when I wrote Heads Carolina with Cole Swindell, I was like, is this for me?
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, you are an artist in the sense that you always write from a place. I write from a place of sort of a complimentary place. I'm trying to figure out how I can figure out what you're trying to say, or whoever the artist is, and help bring in some of my personal experiences and sort of add to that and throw out a line that says, does this resonate with you? Because I kind of went through something like this. And it either will or it won't. And so I could see you just come with like, this is what happened to me today, and then it'll just fall out. When you really have something to say,
for sure,
it just falls out. And you have to be like, wait, what did you just say? Was anybody recording that? Like, please tell me someone had their phone on, please.
But I think what makes a songwriter great is when no one has anything to say, and somehow it just happens. You know what I'm saying? Because when you write so many songs, you've already used up all the titles in your phone.
Right.
Like my dad says it every day. He's like, I have no ideas. Period. I have no idea what to say anymore ever. Yeah. And then to be able to get into a room, and most ideas stem from conversation. Totally. Somebody will say something. I remember when we wrote Beer Can't Fix together, we were on the golf course. Yeah. First tee, shanked both into the woods. Yep. Second, teed up because we didn't hit the driving range. We'll hit slice. Shank right into the woods. And we cracked up in a beer. And we drove them both straight down the dead center of the fairway. And Julian was like, ain't nothing a beer can't fix, man. And then immediately, like, as songwriters, you go, we should write that. You know what I'm saying? Totally. As dumb as that is, you know what I mean? It's like, but I think also when a songwriter is working with an artist, I think the greatest quality that a songwriter can possess working with an artist is giving the artist freedom to get whatever he needs to get out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've said it a million times, but like, if I've been listening to whatever it is, and we're sitting there writing it, the songwriter could know the entire time, nothing is ever going to happen with this song. But if you just let them do it, ultimately, with the patience will get you to the place that ends up maybe being
that's
a
something
hit.
I need to learn more.
You do it great.
My dad said the same. Would always say to me that like, it's art, but it's a blue collar job. It's you go in there and you sit down and you write and you try hard. You don't just get to walk in there and whenever you feel inspired. No, because that's not how a basketball player plays. That's not what Michael Jordan did. That's not what Michelangelo did. They went every day and they practiced the craft. It might not show up that day. It might be a bad song. But you got to just do it because that's how you stay sharp for those moments when you find yourself back to chemistry, in the room with this one person and this other person and some magic starts to happen. Are your tools sharp enough to capture whatever's happening? Because it happens in like that, it's 10 minutes, right? It's like some magic happens in 10 minutes and either you were all there to capture it and capitalize on it, or it's kind of just
there and
gone.
Yeah.
And then you got to wait for the next time.
Yeah. Oh, God. My man.
Wow, it's deep cuts.
The deepest.
Deep cuts.
The deepest.
Okay, so next subject. That was a good like alarm bells. All right, I got some notes here. I want to talk about. Oh, I know what I want to talk about. You are such a great songwriter. You've written so many. It seems that you have no issue taking a great song from another person and identifying a song and saying, "Hey, that's great art. I love that," and wanting to bring it, and showcase it to the world. A lot of artists take issue with that. There's ego issues, there's pride issues, there's whatever the issues are. Two-part question, I guess. What do you look for in a song that you're gonna sing? And why don't you just fill up the album with your songs? Because you have a lot of songs.
Yeah.
And they're all really good.
Yeah. I feel like every record I've made, I've been a part of writing at least 80%, would you say, of the albums? But I feel like there's always like 20% of songs that were, you know what outside song means? Outside song means you didn't write it. Like it just was pitched to you, like an artist pitched it to you, or a
friend said, "Hey,
or a friend
check out
or whatever."
this song. And a lot of artists will take the song and be like, "Okay, I like this, but I'm going to change it," or "I wouldn't say that," or whatever it is. But you're one of the only. Yeah.
So I think for this record in particular, there were two songs I didn't write on this project. One song called "Country for California" and one song called "Don't Want to Dance." And ironically, both of those songs are heartbreak songs, because I suck at writing them.
I don't think that's true.
I mean,
marry me?
Or maybe they.
Come on. What are we talking about?
Next question.
Remember You Young? I mean, come on.
I think what I mean by that is they don't come naturally out of me.
Well, yeah, if you're not in that mode, then
for sure. And I don't know why, but. And this is going to sound really corny coming out. Love songs pour naturally out of me. Also, The Notebook is my favorite movie, so give it what you take. I've always been kind of a hopeless romantic, but anyway, I think when I'm looking at songs, I'm looking for songs that I don't think I could write myself, if that makes any sense. And they usually sort of come in the form of heartbreak, or every now and then there'll be a song that'll come like T-Shirt. I didn't write that song. But when that song was sent to me... Craving You. Oh, God, that's a good story. But I remember I got sent this song called T-Shirt. This would have been 2013, I think. And I had it, but then I found out that Tim McGraw actually wanted it. Can you hear Tim McGraw singing T-Shirt? Anyone? I love Tim McGraw, by the way. But so for an entire year, I remember Tim McGraw had it on hold, and I remember talking to the writers being like, if he ever decides he doesn't want to put this on his album, I like really want this song. And maybe I could have written some version of that, but it was like once I heard that one, I didn't even want to try to beat it because it was the top to me. You know what I mean? Especially for that time period in my life. And so I think when I hear outside songs, I'm looking for something that like I feel like I'm not going to organically write in a writing session. And the second part of that, dude, I mean, some of the greatest artists of all time never wrote their songs.
Whitney Houston.
Yeah, Whitney Houston,
Michael Jackson.
a lot of George Strait songs written by Dean Dillon,
Totally.
one of the greatest songwriters of all time. But I think that's equally just as great of an art, because knowing how to pick great songs, in my opinion, is just as equal as being able to write a great song. Because if you don't know what your brand sounds like, if you don't know what a hit feels like, especially for the time period, then you're probably just going to pick wrong songs. And so, I don't know if that answered your question or not.
It did. It definitely did. And I always, when I'm talking about music, I always try to put it into other domains to sort of give it context. Because talking about music can be really nebulous. But if you put it in the context of sports or of acting or of something, you sort of get a perspective. And the idea that that everybody should be able to write and direct and act in their movies is ridiculous, right? You would never expect that someone would be able to do all of it. Now, there are a few that can, no doubt, just like there's a few people that can write and produce and sing their own music, like Stevie Wonder, Paul McCartney. But they're anomalies, and for the rest of it, it's just unfortunate that there's a lot of songs out there that get left by the wayside because there's not as many artists as egoless as you to say, hey, I love that. That's great. Let me showcase that. Let me put my own spin on that. But yeah. So thanks for being a advocate of other people's great music.
Yeah. Sure.
Now let's talk about you writing songs for for real. And he gives it up. In interviews, he just says, man, I heard this song and so wrote it. He is a true songwriting advocate. So we love that.
Love you.
Love you. You also have written a lot of songs for other people.
Yeah.
What was the first cut you ever got?
First cut I ever got was a song, I can't remember the name of it.
Who was it for?
Oh, it was called "She's Just Like That," and it was on Joe Nichols, on a Joe Nichols album. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I would think I was not. No. That was my second cut. My first cut was a song called "I Ain't Ready to Quit" that was on Jason Aldean's "My Kind of Party" record. Yeah.
Sometimes quitting's not an option.
That's right. No, I remember that so vividly.
That was an inside joke.
I wrote that song when I was 19. I was a sophomore in college, and I was debating dropping out. And after that song happened, I remember me and all my fraternity brothers drove to Walmart and all bought 2 copies of that CD. And we just put my song on repeat and just threw a party. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that was my first one.
That's amazing. And how you'd seen your dad be an artist and you'd seen your dad then be a songwriter. When did you sort of make the decision, or were you always straddling, well, I could be a songwriter, I could be an artist? Like, what were the defining few moments that tipped the scale from one to the other? Because you obviously could have done that and been a very successful songwriter.
I think for me, I watched my dad be gone so much, and so there was a little bit of that inside of me that's like, if I ever get married and have kids, I don't want to be gone like the way that my dad was. But as I got older, I started to understand the road. You know what I mean? I would travel with him everywhere. I watched him play at every fair, from Raleigh, North Carolina to Los Angeles. And so when I was 19, I got offered a developmental publishing deal where I got paid like $300 a month, and I thought I was rich. And
Me too.
Yeah.
I was making $400 demos and was like,
yeah, for sure.
Go.
Let's go. Beer money. And so I wrote songs for about a year, and I think it was like the point when I started to watch other people take interest in my songs, and I would hear my song be sung by someone else. I had this thing inside of me that was like, what would it feel like? There was just like this mystery. You know what I mean? Like, I want to just be a songwriter, I think, and just do what my dad does and do the Nashville thing. But I always kind of wondered what it would feel like to hear my own self, on the radio. And so when I turned 21, I went around to a bunch of record labels in town and got offered a deal and put out a song called "Something to Do with My Hands," like the guy said in the back. And it has been, it's been a whirlwind since then. So
I never had that feeling. What were you saying? That's
Dude,
right.
Come on, man. You
He
made
is.
my day. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I didn't have that feeling. I just wanted to stay in the studio and not let anybody see me. So it was very clear for me why I didn't want to be an artist. I'm also not as handsome as you, so. All right, let's talk process of the new record. With all those songs, and with me forcing you to whittle down to 14. We tried to go 12, but it just didn't seem like it was possible. How hard was it for you to take songs off of this record that we still have, that still will live and get released? But what was the hardest part about that for you?
I was just so mad at you. This dude right here is a freaking savant and just a well of wisdom. Like, he's like Ernest Hemingway. Like, things that he says out of his mouth, I'm like, when did you come up with that quote? Did you just AI it, like, before we had this conversation, or what? But I remember, like, halfway through the process, you know, I was like, in the beginning of this process, you know, as you do, you're looking at the landscape of music and you're like, God, you know, people are putting 50 songs on their record and doing quadruple albums, and, you know, there's a new song every week and all these things. And I'm like, we got to keep up with that. You know what I mean? And you said to me, you're like, what if we did the antithesis of that? And you were like, just play this game with me for 3 weeks. And you said, let's make a 12-song record. And it scared me to death. Because it's not what was happening. People were just putting an insane amount of songs on albums, which is also good. But for me, I think where I finally landed was like every single Friday, just in our genre alone, there's like 1,500 songs released every Friday.
It's a lot.
So many songs. On top of the fact that anytime you open your phone to Instagram or whatever it is, as you said it today, there's someone baking, and then there's someone lifting 1,000 pounds, and then there's someone cutting their grass weird. And then it's like, what do you even know to consume? What do you even know what to like? You know what I mean? Unless the world tells you should like it. And so for me, I think where I got to a point where I was like, maybe we just make something that feels digestible. That's kind of the level that I landed on. I want to be able to put it on Instagram, and you don't have to scroll down to see all the songs. I want you to see all the songs on one single page.
Nice.
And then be able to listen to an album in 36 minutes. You know what I mean? I think sometimes I sit down, you know, on Fridays, and I'm like, I have to dedicate an entire day to listen to this album or to listen to all of this. And so I think there's so much more strategy that goes into this stuff than I think people realize. I mean, we had this conversation for a month. I would call him at midnight. Are you sure it shouldn't be 26 songs? Are you positive? And tell me why. And he's like, bro, go to bed. Like, it's 12 songs for the time being. And we settled on 14.
Songs, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It was a fun process because we're both the type of people that want to just talk about it. You know? We're going to be like, all right, well, what do you think about this guitar? Should it be louder a little bit? I don't know, man. Come over. Let's listen in the truck. All right, cool. Listen in the truck. All right, yeah, let's turn it up louder. But what about this song? Should we turn the bass up? Should we turn the drums up? It was such a fun process for me because we're obviously such good friends, but a lot of times the artist that I'm working with is either on tour or they don't really have an interest in the nuts and bolts and the kind of nerdy stuff about it, like the volumes and the, you know, rewriting, because I'm big on rewriting. I think that, again, to take it out of context, does anybody just sit down and write a book top to front without editing it? Absolutely not. But there's, you know, some people just, when I suggest a rewrite, they go like, ugh, why? Let's just write a new song. And I get that, because that's the fun thing. It's like, oh, new idea. It's really fun. Like, that's the fun part. But the hard part is getting something from really good to great. And then it's even harder to get it from great to amazing. And I find that that's in sort of the unsexy part of it. Like, every now and then you get these magic days when it falls out in an hour, but that doesn't happen all the time, right? And so you and I got to just go and rewrite and tweak and then change the drums on Woman and then do all this fun stuff. And have you, like, what was your experience doing that? Because I know in some of the other albums, the process was different. But this time with me and Dan, like, why did you get so into the nuts and bolts of it? What drew you into that side of it?
Honestly, I think seeing your passion towards it. You know, I think when you watch someone be so engaged in something, you want to be just as engaged in it because you feel like a team.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And not that I haven't felt like a team on my last albums, but you also live like 4 houses down from me, so it was really easy to like.
It was easy.
Get over there. But I remember my wife look at me and be like, "Are you on the phone with Julian again?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we're talking about this bass part." And Lauren's like, "Cool." You know, like just whatever. She doesn't care. She cares, but it's like me talking to her about a frequency of a channel EQ. It's just like, what are you even saying? Yeah. But also, you know, during COVID, like I taught myself how to at least record my own vocal.
Yeah.
And so now I would call you all the time, be like, "Hey, what plugin should I use here? And how do I copy and paste a chorus? And how do I sing harmony on this? And how do I do this?" And so I think as I sort of dove in the weeds on it, me and you started speaking. I started speaking your language.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
Whereas previous to that, I was like, y'all go into your own worlds, and I'll just write the songs. But this felt like an extremely collaborative process. Like I cared about your opinion just as much as you cared about mine. I probably cared about your opinion more than I cared about my opinion.
Well, I cared about
because
yours.
I respect you as a songwriter and respect you as a producer. And when you sign off on things, it gave me this affirmation to be like, yeah, like we've hit a sweet spot, you know?
Yeah, and this is your 6th record you did with Dan, correct?
Yeah.
And now Dan has known you since you were 19, and you've known him since he was, I don't know how old he is.
40 something?
40 something.
I don't know how old Dan is.
Talk about what it's like to work with Dan a little bit, because
Yeah.
Dan Huff, for those who don't know, is one of the most accomplished guitar players ever, and he's also one of the most accomplished producers ever. He's been a mentor to me in my later age, which it's hard to come across great mentors in your later ages, I find, because you become peer and then you start to become mentors of other people, and it's difficult to find other ones, but he's just so amazing. But tell me, when you first started working with him compared to now, and what's the difference? Has he changed? Is his process different?
Yeah.
Like, what's the...
Before I answer that, I just want to say how much I love this, because we don't get to have these kind of conversations in front of people ever. So thank you for being here, and thank you for listening to us. And a huge thanks to all the Grammy folks here tonight that let us do this. This has been a real pleasure thus far. Thank you very much. So Julian kind of gave you somewhat of an intro on Dan, but I think there was a number that I read that I think Dan has produced like 215 #1 songs in his career, or something stupid like that.
That's ridiculous.
He produced, like, in country music, it was like he did all the Rascal Flatts stuff, like in that era. But he also played guitar on Michael Jackson records, Shania records. Who else? Madonna.
Yeah,
he was in an 80s hair metal band called Giant. Was it Giant?
Giant, yeah.
Yeah, you should look up that picture.
He's one of the most
It's
accomplished
amazing.
people in music.
Yeah.
That's ever walked.
But yeah, Dan kind of came into my life when I was really young and honestly searching for a sound. Like right after my first record came out, I was searching for my own path. Because like I feel like the class that I came up with, like the people that were signing record deals at the same time with me, were like Dustin Lynch, John Party, Brett Eldridge, Cole Swindell, like that was kind of my
that's your peer
class,
group.
if you will. And after my first record, I just felt like I needed to somehow find my own lane.
Yeah.
So that I didn't sort of just blend with what was happening. And when Dan came in, you know, along with Jesse Frazier, who produced a lot of my last records, they helped me carve out a lane. And I feel like Dan has always been one of those people that really encouraged me to shoot for the moon.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And to stick out in a good way.
For sure.
And to just be brave about it.
Anytime I wanted to try weird stuff in the studio, he was like, let's go. And I think I think it's been so fun watching y'all produce this together, because y'all's musical knowledge is so right here. It's just he's been doing it 20 years longer than you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like y'all could get on each other's wavelength so well, and it was actually like, it should have been a documentary because it was amazing to watch.
It was so fun for me. Because before we'd only done one-offs, Craven You, and Look What God Gave Her, and to spend that much time around someone with that much wisdom was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
So let me ask you about success. So you've had a lot of it. When you first get it, it looks like one thing. And then after you've had that one thing, the goalposts move, right? So success at first is just getting a song, getting your song to a person to cut it. Then it's to get it on the radio, right? Then it's to, and so on and so forth. And now you've had just so many facets of success. Like, what is success now to you? What does success look like? And obviously, I'm not talking sort of family success or, friends, and I'm talking just sort of musically. Is it an actual number, or is it a feeling? Is it, 5 years from now still enjoying what you made? Like, what's success now for you?
Yeah. I think for the record, this is probably the main conversation me and Julian have, is defining success. Because I think when you release a record, there's just innately this pressure, because you really want it to do better than anything you've ever done. You know what I mean?
Of course.
And for me, it used to be really about a number. And there is no joy in that. That's what I've found.
Amen.
Like, I feel like when my career really started popping was like when Die Happy Man came out, and then it was like Crash and Burn, Die Happy Man, T-shirt, Life Changes. Like, that whole kind of era for me was when I started to feel like, holy crap, we're selling more than 400 tickets. You know what I mean? It felt like a huge deal. And but you know what the sucky part about that was, like, I barely remember that time in my life, which is crazy. Because I think when you're on the rise, you kind of just keep, it's like you're so fearful that you're going to do this, that you do anything that it takes to just go here.
And you keep looking for more.
You keep looking for more because you sell out one arena and you're like, maybe we can do 2 nights.
And then once you do 2 nights,
maybe we can do 3. You know what I mean? And once we do 3, maybe we can do a football. It never ends. Yeah. And I think when you just continue to look for the next thing that you think is going to bring joy to your life, as y'all know, I don't know if anybody can relate to this or not, but you keep looking for that crap, it doesn't make you happy. It actually just it turns you into this unjoyful being, because every time people talk to you, it's like, how you doing, man? I'm good, man, but I'm just working hard and I just got to do this. And it sucks because I wish I could go back and, like, for the first time I headlined Madison Square Garden was the most magical night of my life. And I thought that was the pinnacle, right? But it was just like, when are we going to come back and do it 2 nights?
Yeah.
There was no celebration. You know what I mean? There was no moment where me and the band looked at each other and we were like, we just freaking did that. It was just on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And I say all that to say, I don't know if it's turning 30, and there might be some scientists in the room here, but I'm pretty sure that a male brain is fully developed at 30.
Yeah.
Is that right?
27, 28, 30.
27, 28.
34, I don't know.
34,
40.
Yeah.
40, I'm about 40.
But it is hard. It's hard to take my wife and my kids out of this equation of success.
Absolutely. You can answer it however you want.
Yeah. Because for me, when I started having kids, which was right around the time this was happening in my life, that was a weird balance. Yeah. Because now I had 2 things that were the most important thing in my life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so now, like, looking back at it, I still suck at it a lot of days, because I'll call you at midnight and be like, man, why are whatever.
But we're competitive. I mean, that's why we're here. We're competitive people.
For sure. But I think success for me now, my dad told me in 2021, he goes, dude, this year on the road, you have to recreate your why, why you do this, Because if it always stays about a number, that number is going to fail you at some point. Sometimes your expectations are not going to be met. And so when I redefined my why, it made it a lot easier to go on the road and be like, man, my goal tonight is just to put smiles on people's faces, period. I don't care what the number is in the crowd. I don't care whatever, who did what the night before, if I can go on stage and see people smiling in the room and feel joyful and know that the last 90 minutes of their life was not an escape, but just sort of a break from reality, if you will, then I can walk off stage and be like, bro, I don't care what happened. That was my mission. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think that is my version of success today. Yeah.
Well, my metric of success now is kind of the same, and I succeeded because you said to me on the way here that you were like, dude, I jammed the whole vinyl last night at my house. It was awesome. I was like, all right.
Do y'all listen to vinyl?
Success.
Anybody like actively listen to vinyl? It's so fun, and you need to do more of it. It really is.
Yeah. All right. Now we got some Q&As now.
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, that's a yes. Thumbs up. Yes.
All
Q&A.
Right.
For anyone who has a
Q&A.
question.
Sir.
Yes.
Wait, I got you. I got a mic.
What was your favorite song?
My favorite song like ever?
Ever.
It's like asking which kid is my favorite.
Can't ask that.
Everybody's got
Nobody
a favorite
can ask
kid.
that.
Just kidding. I get to pick two?
This is the most torturous question
It is.
for a songwriter and for an artist. It really is. He went in hard.
I think for I think I can pick one. I think because there's so many reasons around this song, but The Way You Look Tonight by Frank Sinatra is my all-time favorite song. There's a lot of nostalgia for that song. For me, like I grew up, my grandmama loved Frank Sinatra, loved Elvis, loved all of like sort of, 40s and 50s music, and that was my first dance at my wedding song. So, holds a special place in my heart.
All right.
I got you.
Who do you think?
So I think one of the things I love most about you is how you love Lauren, and I think every woman kind of dreams about a man loving her the way you express yourself with her. I'm listening to her book right now, by the way, and what do you attribute to like your success? I know there's in your personal life, not like I know there's highs and lows, and I was listening to her, and you're just so relatable. But what do you recommend then to your average guy?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I have never felt more awkward in my whole existence.
I think that's a great question. I think it is. That's right.
Has anybody got a key so I can shotgun this thing really fast? I'm sorry. So what is the question?
Do you have any? Do you have
I
any?
just mean like you guys have such a good. You work at it all the time, and
Yeah.
I know that God is in your hearts all the time. But for everyone else, like, what do you just suggest or?
Gosh, I didn't realize this was like the Grammy therapy session.
I could throw one thing out there just from what because I've observed him closer than you guys have, unless someone's hiding outside of his house. But he really draws a clear line between the things that are important and the things that aren't. There's not a lot of, you don't do a lot of frivolous things with your time. You fully have committed to family time, wife time. You have your job, you have a core group of friends, but you guys are always spending time, quality, just time around each other.
Yeah.
That's what I see.
For sure. Every single day you have to work at it. You know what I'm saying? And we've done our fair share of, therapy and all that kind of stuff. But I think I've always been so terrified to hurt my wife's feelings, like with what I honestly think, like to the extent of what I mean. I'm making a point.
I know.
I'm making a point. If I know for a fact that she wants to eat at Taco Bell, and she asks me, "What do you want to eat?" I'm not saying anything else except for Taco Bell. And as good as I thought of a plan that was, then she would get frustrated at me. And I'm making a deeper point here, but she looked at me, this was like 2 years ago, she was like, you know what my biggest problem with you is? She was like, you don't ever say what you really want to say. And so I've been real honest the last couple of years. I've been really honest, because she is that way with me. When I ask her a question, she tells me straight up. You know what I mean? Like whether it's like brutal truth or whatever. And I think what we have done a really good job at is like not being afraid to hurt each other's feelings when it comes to something that's for real. Does that make sense? With raising our children, with how we're spending our time. Like if you let my wife, she would plan you a birthday party next week. You know what I mean? And she would hire a balloon crew and a taco truck, and she would get an ice cream maker. Like that's just her heart. And to an extent, it's a blessing and a curse to be that way, because you wake up and we have no free nights because we're hosting baby showers for people that we don't know. And Julian knows this. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm at a baby shower. For who? I have no idea. But even just things like that, where like for me to speak up and look at her and be like, hey, people know that you love them. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to go above and beyond for all the time. And it's just like, so I think what I'm saying is like open and honest transparency, no matter what the cost, is the only way.
Yeah.
And I think that has made us a heck of a lot closer over the last couple of years of being able to just like say what we think. So
We're going to Taco Bell after.
And
come
also,
on, baby.
if you learn how to write her some songs,
Cheesy
that
gordita
helps
crunch
too.
and a Baja Blast, you know?
And we're going to have Thomas Rhett pay for that bill.
That's
Yeah,
right.
exactly. Other questions? Yeah, this lady right here.
I'm sorry.
So like I know this new album's coming out, but we got Country Again side A. So are you ever gonna drop side B? And then also I also wanted to know if you could sign this after.
Yes, I can sign that.
Thank you.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah, it will happen.
It's gonna happen.
It will happen.
It's definitely gonna
You know, I
happen.
wish I could tell you the rhyme or reason why it hasn't yet. There's not one. I think we start making music that feels like the right thing right now, and then it just keeps not being side B. And I keep saying it's gonna be next, but I can't promise that. What I do know is that as long as you're asking the question, it will happen at some point in time. So, but I would say for every Instagram post that I make, I would say 90% of the comments are where is side B. So, making you wait, baby. Just kidding.
There was someone right. Yes.
Hey, so I know you are a proud girl dad, and I am curious whether or not your girls have actually introduced you to any music that has inspired you, and what it is about your girls and their taste in music that has really brought something to the fore in terms of what you do.
Yeah. They
Some of this record too.
do what?
I feel like they kind of inspired a little bit this record too.
They did. This is the first time that I can remember as being a parent where at least my older two now have complete music opinion. You know what I'm saying? It used to just be like, play daddy's song, and I could play anything, and they'd be like, this is amazing, you know? But now it's like at the point where I always play them new music on the way to school and on the way home from school. So if I just got off the road, I'm playing them brand new demos or whatever. And Willa Gray is so brutal. Like, she's 9, you know, she's about to be she is a preteen, which is crazy. But that, you know, they're very melody-driven kids, and they both take hip-hop class, and so they're always dancing to, you know, whatever Kygo remix of whatever, or Drake, or they love the Jonas Brothers, like are obsessed with the Jonas Brothers. They haven't gotten to the point yet, which they're pretty young. Like I don't think they appreciate lyric yet, and so like when I play them like a singer-songwriter kind of thing, and I get to it, I'm like, they're just like, what was that even about?
They're like boring.
Boring. Next.
Put something with beats.
Play something with beats. Yeah. And a lot of this record, honestly, was inspired by them because I remember driving to school, I'd look in the mirror and I could tell within 30 seconds if they were vibing or not. You know what I'm saying? If Willa Gray did not ask to hear it again, it was lame. You know? But yeah, I mean, I guess that they're in school now, so that they always, they listen to this kid named Connor Price, and he's got a song called Splat that they really love. Yeah, I'm trying to think.
It's a good title.
I haven't, every time I try to introduce the Beatles or the Eagles, they're like, this is terrible. So, but I was the same way when I was 9, and now, I grew up the right way, grew up listening to all that stuff, and it's now awesome to me. But it is pretty wild to watch them, I guess, just be around me, and they're always just making up rhymes and melodies and making dances and doing the things. I think they all are going to be very musical. But maybe ask me in 3 years, maybe their taste will be a little bit better. So,
you had a question?
Yeah. Thanks. So obviously, country is an American genre, and it's very big in the USA. But I'm originally from Israel. I've been listening to your music since before I moved here, and I wonder if you, as a country artist, thinking about getting global or succeed outside of the borders, or do you just accept that it's the USA is the country of the country?
Yeah. We talked about that kind of a bit on this record because country's so built on storytelling, right? And the turn of a lyric and sort of being look over here with the lyric and then making the lyric mean a different thing. And so I feel like a lot of times with country music, it might not translate to other countries because the nuances of the storytelling and of the lyric, it's so story dependent and so lyric dependent. Obviously, that doesn't matter because some of the greatest ones do cross over, but I think that a lot of that has to do with melody. I think that melody forward music always can cross, and I think we try to be pretty melody conscious here.
I would say this is the first record that I've always been a lyric first person. Anytime I'm in conversation, I'm constantly writing down song titles or I'm writing down concepts. And when I started writing with Julian, I feel like folks in LA sort of do it in reverse. It's kind of
yeah, it is.
Start with melody or start with piano or start with guitar. And I remember Julian looked at me on one of the days making this project, and you said, listening to these songs, if you didn't speak English, would you vibe to this? And that was an interest. I've never been asked that question in my life.
Don't speak English, but we understand. And
Totally.
Yeah.
As someone from a small town in Israel, I feel that sometimes these songs are kind of about my life too,
Wow. Heck yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, that's what this whole night is about. Our 2025 Israel tour is kicking off in a couple weeks. So
that's the power.
And you're going to be
melody.
there.
That's the power of melody, though, for sure.
For sure.
Let's do one more here, and then we'll
Thank
close.
you for that question.
Yeah.
I saw you at UBS. You came out of the stage playing the drums, right?
Yeah.
Blew me away.
Thanks.
What's with? No, I don't need that. What?
Hot dog.
That's Carolina. You gave us a cold. You guys are that close? Because that song is just by far awesome.
Yeah.
I found out you wrote it. I was like, why did you keep that away?
Yeah. I wonder that same thing most days. Yeah, I remember, seriously, Cole Swindell is also an insane
beast.
songwriter. He's a beast of a songwriter. And he called me and he said, hey, I have this crazy idea. I want to take this old Jody Messina song called Heads Carolina, Tails California, and I just want to rewrite it, but I want to keep all the melody in. And I feel like other genres do a lot of sampling or intertwining, old familiar melodies into more of modern songs or whatever. And when he told me that idea, I was like, I just don't know that that's going to work, but we can sit down on a Monday and give it a shot. And we sat there for 3 hours and wrote this storyline. And I remember when we finished it, I was like, this is unfortunate because I know that I'm in here writing for his record, And he halted his record was finished and they had a release date. and they pushed the release date so they could get back in and record this song because he knew he wanted it to be the next single. And then it came out and was a 5-week #1 song, and it won ACM Song of the Year, CMA Single of the Year. No, it was a collaborative effort. Oh, heck yeah. We'll play some craps. Right on. Hey, anything. Watch the Jets. I won't talk about football anymore. Y'all have too many teams in this town.
I got, okay, yeah, we'll do one more.
How are y'all, by the way? Good to see you.
Hey.
Heck yeah.
Has there been like any other plan in your life? Right here.
Sorry. Oh, hi. Okay. It's like, where is that voice coming from? Okay.
Has there been any other plan in your life outside of songwriting or singing? Like, did you have any plan on doing something else for your career?
It was a loose plan.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to a small school in Nashville called Lipscomb University, and it was I went there because I didn't get into any of the other colleges I applied to. Applied to Tennessee, Georgia, Auburn, immediately rejected, and so Lipscomb, they required a smaller GPA. So anyway, but I went there and I majored in communications. It seemed to be the easiest, fastest route out of college, and I'm just being fully transparent with you. But my stepdad sells insurance, and I thought that would be a path for me. And I had a bunch of friends that sell. I'm serious. I could sell the crap out of some insurance. I promise you that. But I don't know. Like I think when I started writing songs and felt like I had a knack at it, there wasn't a plan B, you know. But I also, in the beginning of my career, even my wife looked at me and she was like, "Do you think you're gonna make it?" And I was like, "Probably not, you know. But let's just ride this train while we got it." But I think even like today, like I think about it sometimes, like what would I be doing? I think I would be innately creating something. I don't know what that would be, but I mean, I come up with a new idea for a business every day, like whether it's a T-shirt apparel company or
came up with
a camo company or some fishing lure. I'm constantly thinking about that stuff. So I think I would have ended up doing something in the creative space. Yeah.
All right, I got a last question for you before we take a little break. It's a 7-part question. Just give me, this is the Inside the Actor Studio, sort of based off of that one. Give me just 2-3 words about the album. It goes like this. I'm going to go through all your albums.
Are you serious?
Yeah, just looking back.
This wasn't a part of the plan.
I know, give me a word or two. Of what the album was about, how it feels.
Okay.
You could say the color green if you want.
Okay.
You know, whatever.
It goes like this. Trying to figure out who I was as an artist.
Yeah. Okay. Tangled Up.
Experimenting on who I thought I was going to be.
Nice. Life Changes.
Exactly where I was. Like
Centerpoint Road.
Maybe a bit of a shift back towards album like 1.
Okay. Country Again.
A full shift.
Where We Started.
I'm not sure.
About a Woman.
I think a full culmination of everything that I have been.
That was a great answer. Thank you, guys. We're taking a 5-minute, 10-minute break. Bathroom, drinks. We're going to go off, and then he's going to
Beers on this guy for everybody.
Yeah.